I really am the last airbender.
How do you adapt a beloved animated show into live action? Avatar: The Last Airbender just might be the case study on how to try and fail and try again. For the 2024 live action series, showrunner Albert Kim has said that the goal was not only to appeal to children. Quote, "It had to also appeal to the people who are big fans of Game of Thrones, and so it had to feel grounded and mature and adult in that way too." Before I even watched the first episode, I heard of one of the changes that they made to start the show with a depiction of the Air Nomad genocide, the actual violent attack from the Fire Nation that removes the Air Nomads from the face of the earth. I never really got into Game of Thrones, so I can't really comment on if this particular change made the show like Game of Thrones in any way. But assuming that this change was supposed to add to the maturity of the live action show, I think it does the opposite. One of the themes of the animated series is the impact of genocide. Aang bears the weight of being not only the Avatar, but also being the last of his people. He alone carries the traditions, beliefs, and powers of the Air Nomads. This identity even impacts the structure of the show, which is essentially a grand tour of the world, with the main characters traveling on an air bison. Compare this, for example, to the sequel series, which has far less traveling from episode to episode. Aang's conflict is so important to the series that it even impacts the final battle. Despite the advice of his friends and even his own past lives, he aims to hold on to the Air Nomad belief in the sacredness of all life, even that of Fire Lord Ozai, who would not hesitate to commit a genocide himself, much like his grandfather before him. Would Aang struggle with this if he wasn't the last Air Nomad? I don't think so. The duties of the other part of his identity, that of the Avatar, would supersede that. There would be other air nomads to carry the tradition to honor all life, after all. Going back to the earlier point of a more mature show though, does depicting the genocide on screen accomplish this? In a sense, yes. Much of what makes a piece of media for mature audiences is violence after all. The animated series deliberately censors violence and death in quite a few ways. At the same time though, I would argue that it is less mature. Genocide is a huge topic. In 2026, it's huge. The clever thing about the animated series is that it shows us the impact of the genocide of the air nomads, their absence, the ways it affects Aang and even the world. And it does at least some of that before we ever actually see Aang's life as an air nomad in scattered flashbacks. I'd say there was no need to show the genocide. There are multiple fight scenes from the original series that could have been stripped of their censorship to raise the stakes and show the impact of war. Zuko does not have to be the only one who carries a prominent scar, for example. Fighting with the literal forces of nature at one's fingertips will definitely leave quite a few marks. In my opinion, the genocide sequence is immature. It's one of the lowest possible hanging fruits. Yes, violence is part and parcel of genocide, but there's actually a whole lot more. A people will not accept a leadership committing a genocide unless they are fed some propaganda, often over years and years. What did Sosen say to his people to make sure they would not protest his campaign against the most notorious peace lovers in the entire world? Did he dehumanize the air nomads? Say they were hoarding resources, were a violent danger to the Fire Nation or the world in general? Did he just instill a deep fear in the Fire Nation citizens that they would end up like the air nomads if they rebelled? The live action series made a bold choice in showing the Fire Nation and Azula in the very first season. These issues and more could have been explored. Instead, about 20 minutes of the first episode is dedicated to a prologue to show the end of the air nomads. A deeper and more mature exploration of the idea of genocide is not just about showing the violence associated with it, but the many, many other ways that it touches the world. The cognitive dissonance of the layperson whose government is guilty of it, the way they themselves buy into the idea that these people deserve to be killed for whatever reason. The friendships that end because one person has a different opinion on the genocide than the other. The loss of language, culture, traditions, wisdom. Aang may be a master airbender, but he's also a child. What airbending skill will he never learn because the monks and nuns are gone? What famous story of his ancestors does he not remember in full and never will? What way of connecting to the spirits was he about to learn and will never have the opportunity to? Exploring these would have been a far more mature way of engaging with the topic of genocide. It's a heavy topic and deserves more than just fire and gore. Thanks for watching, and thanks to all of you for allowing me to surpass 1,000 subscribers. If you haven't yet subscribed and thought this video was worth it, please do. I have a lot more ideas that I hope you will enjoy. I've been Ken Kwame, and I'll see you next time.